See you guys in Frozen Temple. And here we're on Frozen Temple. Boom. I don't have a map intro for Frozen Temple yet. Spawning down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map as the blue Terran player, give it up for Happy. And his opponent, up here in the top left-hand corner of the map, the red Terran player, give it up for Clem. And oh my god, I got so caught up getting into the game and all this other stuff that I asked for the score and I didn't read the score. The players told me and I didn't read it. Oh boy. So hold on, wait, there's like the ability to do in-game chat now? Question mark? No. Wait, can I see it? No, I can't see chat channels. Never mind. All right, so never mind, as you forgive me for ruining the overlay for a moment. As we hop into this Terran versus Terran, I do apologize, guys. I do not know the score. What I may do is in like about 3 minutes, I might open up TvT streams, see what they have listed as the score, and go by that as my golden standard. But until then, we're going to be flying blind. We do have a double gas opening coming out from both players, which is fairly interesting. A double gas before the barracks finishes up. I am not going to claim to be a Terran versus Terran expert by any means, but this is definitely a something that I have not usually seen in a lot of the Terran versus Terrans. It does, again, like, yeah, go straight into the fast factory. And 1-1-1 openings in Heart of the Swarm were definitely considered one of the most standard and safest openings. In Legacy of the Void, I think that we have seen a lot more of the kind of like big Reaper pressures. You get out like multiple barracks, the 2 racks openings. You end up seeing not really additional barracks being thrown down. You do tend to see the 1-1-1s and a lot of one-base play, but I also end up seeing a couple of players try to go for those faster expansions sometimes in these TvT matchups. So kind of cool to see 1-1-1 openings coming out from both these players. Pretty much mirrored identical builds from both of them. A slight little lead for Happy. I don't know where it was in his build he got this lead, but his SCVs are a little bit further ahead. His Reaper is a little bit further ahead. His Starport is straight on point with his opponent. So everything looking very, very similar. Even the Hellion is actually a little bit ahead. So Happy is he's doing something right mechanically. He's on point. Reaper's going to be engaging each other in the center of the map, though, and the one thing that Happy doesn't quite have is it looks like that slight little edge in how these Reapers are engaging against each other. Minor health advantage goes to Clem, but that second Reaper going to be coming out a little bit earlier for Happy. Ooh, not able to take advantage of it, and both of these players are going to be regenerating all the health on those Reapers. The Hellion comes out for Clem, though, and Happy going to have to retreat back to his own Hellion. And these are really cool. I always love these kind of big move outs into the center of the map with a very small group of units, because it's that small micro, the micro of each individual unit, trying to get the best engagement possible. Ooh, Hellion's getting some great shots over there for Happy. He might try and chase this. Reaper grenades are going to push this back for at least a little bit, and Happy going to have to be content with just getting a single Reaper kill. Of course, the Hellions over here for Clem going to be retreating back, and Happy takes his natural expansion on the low ground while Clem going for that Banshee play, but isn't going to have a lot of time for this right now. Widowmine also comes out, and there's a nice little advantage over here for Happy. He's getting some worker damage done. The Reaper Grenade's also doing some splash damage to the workers. Hellion's going to be finishing off a decent chunk of them. All of the army units over here for Clem have been taken out. Banshee's going to be coming out. Ooh. I think that Widowmine does manage to kill off the Reaper, or so one of the units, but also managed to do a little bit of splash damage to the SCVs. SCVs do survive, but some really good damage being done over here. And Reapers being unloaded over here by the medevac. I'm really surprised to see the medevac just charge across the map over here for Happy, but it looks like it works out. Even the Banshee not only gets scouted, but it gets delayed from moving across the map. Now Cloak is going to be on the way. Cloak is going to be finishing, but the Banshee is still going to be at home. It's going to be at home defending against the Reapers until enough units come out. And I think finally Clem is going to feel comfortable maybe moving out with that Banshee, but look at this. Missile turret is already up. He's in a great spot to defend against this. He has a natural expansion as well. Has done some decent worker damage. 5 workers killed. Is up 3 or 4. Gonna get out a Raven Clem, as maybe he just wants to make a bit more use of that tech lab on the starport, knowing that his opponent is going to be well prepared for the Banshee play. Still, the Banshee moves across the map, and you can occasionally find some openings, but there is a Cyclone as well over here for Happy. And once that Cyclone moves in, if he throws down a scan, he might be able to catch this Banshee very much off guard, as here's the lock-on. And there it is with the Viking adding in some DPS. He cleans that up. The Reapers also managed to survive in the medevac. It's so rare that you end up seeing Reapers inside of a medevac. Reapers generally just rely on their own combat drugs rather than the medevac killing them up, but that just goes to show that kind of early aggression really did end up catching Clem very much off guard. Happy taking a nice little lead in this game with that earlier natural expansion. He did take a 1 or 2 worker losses, so he falls a little bit further behind in the worker lead than he was at before. But it's about the fact that he's able to get up some of the other tech. He gets up his starport and everything behind all this. He gets up that siege tank production. And he's looking pretty good, I would say. Just the fact that his command center is finished up that extra bit earlier, he can make use of that. He has the additional income to add on those barracks that really Clem just hasn't even gotten around to starting just yet. Stim is already starting up for Happy. I don't believe it's even started up for right now for Clem. And Clem ends up losing a couple more units in the center of the map. You can see resources lost tab kind of evenish, but again, it's about that additional income with the natural expansion that allows him to get up the faster production. Clem, we're still waiting around until he gets up the minerals to start throwing down some of those additional barracks. Because it's going to be really hard when you're sitting down a significant number of Marines. You can fall behind so quickly in a Terran versus Terran. Those engagements where your Marines just end up dying first and your opponent's Marines just stim all on top of your siege tanks and just slaughter them very, very quickly. It's a very common thing to happen in TvT. Since the days of Wings of Liberty, that's always been a concern. And you just don't have enough defenses for your siege tanks. And finally, we're starting to see some of those barracks being thrown down. And again, like, I just want to note how much later these are. It's almost a minute and a half or almost 2 minutes later. And at the same time, Happy just saying, oh, well, I can go for a third expansion. Just take this lead a little bit further. Setting up now 5 workers. Has 5 guys on gas. Does correct that almost immediately. Getting up the +1 weapons upgrade as well. So Stim, +1 weapons. All these little things have just been ahead for Happy almost this entire game. Clem tried to go for the Banshee opening and just didn't really make a whole lot happen. So that was sort of the one big advantage that he had in delaying his natural expansion and everything, but it didn't really make a lot happen with it. The Raven is a nice touch, but did he end up losing the Raven? Oh, he lost the Raven in the center of the map. He managed to kill his opponent's Raven, so Happy loses his as well, but this is a difficult spot, I think, for Clem. Luckily for Clem, Happy hasn't been hyper consistent about that worker production. I know in TvT, players tend to cut those workers a little bit earlier than you do in some of the other matchups, as you end up seeing again, delaying the SCVs and finally starts them back up. So Clem has done a pretty good job of catching up with Happy, so that worker lead hasn't really skyrocketed out of control or anything. But that third orbital command is still going to play a huge impact, whether it be through just the minerals mine to increase the number of barracks that can be thrown down and the additional Marines that are being made, whether it be the gas geysers that allow some additional medevacs or siege tanks, or heck, even maybe liberators in the later stages of the game being made. All sorts of things can come from that third expansion that Clem just is only now about halfway done with, and he might even have a little bit of trouble if Happy decides to push across the map. It may not be so easy to actually defend that third expansion. Clem's still leading up a little bit of that army supply though, so it does seem like he has enough to defend it. +1 weapons finished up over here for Happy though, so that even if he's sitting a little bit further down in that army supply, he's sitting up in the upgrades and even getting up the +1 armor upgrade. I believe his combat shield is also finished up as well. Yeah, combat shield already finished up, whereas Clem's still getting up his combat shield. And now starting to fall a little bit further behind is that third orbital command starting to kick on in. 10 workers behind approximately. But we're seeing a very passive game out of both of these players. After that initial damage that Happy did across the map with the very first set of units, after the Banshee harassment, both of these players have been sitting very, very passively. No drop harassment. We have a sensor tower, I believe. I see a sensor tower somewhere. Oh, here it is. directly underneath the army or next to the army, so gonna make it a bit hard to make a whole lot more damage happen. A single marine moving in, just getting an idea of where Clem's army is sitting, unit composition, keeping an eye on his opponent, maybe whether or not their third expansion was finally taken. And he doesn't see the third, but he saw the army sitting around over there. You might start to assume a couple of things. But I really do feel like as this game goes on, Happy is going to be slightly more favored just because he's gotten up that faster third. He's gotten up better upgrades, and the upgrades are going to be the real big thing that you start to see weighing into this game. Because when you have a Terran player that has 1-1 upgrades and the other Terran player doesn't have any upgrades whatsoever, okay, well, I guess now finally getting up +1 weapons, but now at the same time, Happy gets up +2 weapons. So it's just outdoing him constantly in that upgrade count. And may even be hitting a nice little timing where he's going to have +1 weapons finished up, +1 armor finished up, and +1 weapons is still going to be on the way. Still researching over here for Clem. It's going to be a very, very slim timing, but we'll see if he manages to hit it. Only about 10 more seconds. It doesn't look like he's going to be hitting it. Clem going to be finishing up just barely in the nick of time for this engagement. Or this little push in. But, you know, despite the fact that both these players have been very passive, they have been at least a little bit active, moving around the map, seizing control. But here we go, sieging up. Going to be denying any mining over here, at least at the gas geysers, but also the mineral patches. No longer mining either. Clem going to be in a bit of trouble. Also ends up losing a couple more units. And whoa, Clem is just moving across the map. He's feeling ultra confident over here. There are a couple of units still left over for Happy. He's going to be defending it against this choke point. SCV is being pulled, and at the same time, drop moving over to the main base. And this is turning into a weird base trade. Get your base trades out in the chat if you have them. But I think that this is not going to be as much of a base trade as Clem really wanted to, because Happy is just in such a massive lead. He's killing off the third, he's killing off the main orbital commands, and yes, Clem does manage to charge on forward, but I feel like, yeah, Happy just lifts off and says, well, that's fine, I have a fourth command center as well. I can retreat back to my main base, defend over there, and heck, I can even retreat back with the majority of my army at some point and say, well, I've killed almost all of your economy off and almost all your units back at home, as well as your workers. I'm okay with taking this into a base trade. That's what I feel like is happening over here. As Happy is even not trading out too terribly. These siege tanks are getting some pretty good shots off at the same time. Happy has killed off all of the units. GG gets called, and Happy gonna be taking the game. And we'll find out in a bit what the score was, as I did totally forget to move over to Take TV stream. Let's actually open up Take TV stream right now and find out what the score was. Because the winner of this does go on to face off versus Bunny in our final series of the day. Let's take a look. Looks like it was 1-0 in favor of Clem. So that does mean we go to a game number 3. And of course I do find out immediately afterwards, as Happy invites me into a game. Game number 3 going to be on Runes of Endion. We're going to hop to a very short commercial break since I don't have a map enter for this, as we get ready to hop into it. We'll see you guys in a bit. All right, I do apologize for anyone that's going to be saying, why is the game already starting? I thought there was a minute left on those ads. No, I decided to cut it a little bit short since the game has already started. Players very on point on getting this game started, but here we go. Ace match, ladies and gentlemen, as we spawn down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map. Top of the blue Terran player, give it up for Happy. A man who dominates and strikes fear into the heart of everyone on the ladder. And his opponent in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, the red Terran player, won game number 1, which we weren't able to catch, but lost game number 2. We'll see if he can bring it back in game number 3. Give it up for Clem. We once again have those double gas openings coming out from both of these players before those barracks finish up. Both these players are going to be going for those fast factories. And Happy actually sending out that early SCV scout. Yep, catches wind of the factory going down. Clem at the same time not really going for any scouting information whatsoever. Of course, only 2 spawns on this map, so he knows where his opponent is. Doesn't really need to go for the scout unless he wants some sort of confirmation about not getting a 2 racks opening. This is a okay-ish map for Reapers. just in the sense that they can move across the center area, but you cannot move from this low ground area to this high ground area. You have to move up to the natural and then up, just because Reapers, their jetpacks are good, but they're not that good. They can't jump up too high of cliffs, as you end up seeing the Reaper goes the long route down and around. But Reaper gonna make its way across the map. Happy did go for a Reaper, but his Reaper is along the north side. Maybe on the lookout for where Clem's Reaper is. He saw the opening, so he should know that there was a Reaper. Now, whether or not he can find it is a totally another story. But at the same time, we do have starports going up, and we do have a tech lab coming down for Clem. So maybe looking to go for that Banshee opening once again. And this time, Happy also throwing down that tech lab. Now, I think in the last game, he may have gone for the starport first, and he just cranked out a medevac. I don't know if he actually, I will admit, I was not paying full attention and spawning out whether or not there was a, oh my god, is Tempo in the chat? I am so sorry. I was rambling a little bit, but wow, Tempo. Yo, Tempo, if you wanna join me, I'd be super up for that. Maybe after this game, I'll message you. Dude, that'd be so sick. Yes, you messaged me on Skype, dude. I thought you would be at PAX, but there you are, man. An absolute savior to esports everywhere. But here we go. A little bit of harassment coming in over here from Clem. Not necessarily getting the better end of this, as he does end up losing his only, the only unit that's died this game, the singular Reaper. Happy going to be able to defend with that high ground advantage. And let me really quickly just message Tempo and let him know. Alright, letting Tempo know that I'm down for the help. But Happy, yeah, definitely not going to have too much trouble defending at this high ground. He's taking a lot of damage, though. And that Reaper grenade, plus the Hellion splash damage, is actually causing a lot more problems than I thought. Happy might be in a little bit more trouble than I thought. Those 3 Hellions versus just 1 now. And a singular Marine going to be holding the line. A couple more Marines do pop out. And Happy manages to defend at the same time. A Viking makes its way across the map and tries to get a couple of work kills. SCVs being pulled, not the typical harassment you end up seeing, but the Banshee over here for Clem. Now moving on in, 4 workers killed, 5 workers killed. The SCV is not quite building that missile turret fast enough, and now Cloak finishes up. The Raven is out to detect, but what is there in terms of Marines to defend? The Marine count was thinned out by the Hellion harassment, and a ton of damage was done. The Viking over here for Happy, also very much out of position, is now 28 orcers to 16. The damage has been done, even if the Banshee goes down. Clem is in such a fantastic spot. And of course, there is no command center finished up over here for Clem. It is, oh, okay, well, it is going to be finished up over here as a 2-hour sleep Fear Dragon strikes again. Says something that is totally wrong, as something right in front of my eyes is there. But of course, getting past that, Clem does finish up his natural expansion. It's okay, maybe not in as bad of a position as I was talking about before. Still not an ideal position though. If Happy decides to either go for some big one base push, that's going to be a little bit scary, because Clem invested a lot into that Banshee harassment, into a lot of the other tech, and of course the attack earlier on, and he ended up losing a lot of it. He got damage done, but he still ended up losing a lot of that army. But also, if Happy throws down a command center, he's going to be a bit further behind, but he still has a potential to try and get some damage done. We'll wait and see how this ends up playing out. Vikings and the Raven over here for Clem. Going to be able to spot that Happy is trying to knock down those rocks. Happy immediately retreats away as he tries to maybe bait this army a little bit further forward, so his Vikings and his Raven can try and get the better end of this. Auto turret's going down over here for Clem, getting the better end of this, killing the snipe off on one of Happy's Vikings. Now Vikings for Happy still do have a health advantage, I should say. And he manages to knock down those rocks. He's going to continue to charge across the map. Happy finally throwing down a command center of his own, but he has to get some damage done over here. If he does not get the damage done, then he is just going to fall way too far behind, sitting down almost half the worker count of his opponents. He doesn't have medevacs out with the army either, as he's just continuing to produce more Vikings, so he can't really even do some sort of elevator play up into the main base. He can maybe siege up some of these siege tanks down over here on the low ground if he can push back the siege tanks of Clem. Oh, the siege tanks of Clem pulling back on their own, and this means that now suddenly Clem's production is going to be under fire. Oh, a medevac would be so useful for Happy, but I can understand why he didn't want to go for it. SCV is being pulled. Clem realizes he's at such a massive lead with how much damage he did. He just has to defend over here. The SCV is going to buffer a little bit, but I think there might just be a little bit too much over here for Happy. The Siege Tanks are Happy, doing a lot of damage. 33 workers to 23. Clem can still afford to lose a few more workers. He still has that natural command center, but he loses a lot, and still Happy manages to maintain that air superiority, and that is such a big deal because now he can continue to whittle away at this production over in the main base. If this Viking was not here, a siege tank and these Marines would siege up, start whittling away or picking off a lot of these siege tanks, and suddenly this would be a much easier defense for Clem. But it's that singular Viking that has managed to survive and turn the way that this game ends up going. Happy was sitting in a very difficult situation, but oh boy, this has been quite advantageous for Happy in just how these engagements have been playing. And now the natural expansion is no longer mining. Holy moly is telling me that the sounds stop when I tap. Oh yeah, when I tab out of StarCraft, the sound stop. I do know that. That is something just with the way that I have things set up, so I do apologize for that. But Clem, maybe just trying to play that patience game. He did end up having to move one of his barracks. That's ended up also giving up, I believe, a reactor, but I think he might finally be going for it. He has a couple of these medevacs as well, so he can try and chase down this army if he so chooses to. Is not opting to go for it. The stim comes out from these Marines. He's really gunning for those siege tanks. He throws down the scan, and I think that might be enough of a reveal for Happy to know that this army is chasing him. But is that going to give him any sort of safety? No. He loses every single one of the siege tanks, and even though he does a lot of damage, he's still sitting down 6 workers and loses a huge chunk of that army, as we now end up seeing almost all the siege tanks for Happy get killed off. 2 siege tanks still around, sitting back at home, but a lot of the Marines also is going to have a Marine deficit, so he's still sitting at a deficit in pretty much every regard. Of course, also finally starting to get up that stim of his own, as well as combat shields, which are both finished up for Clem. And I don't know if Clem is aware of this. He probably will understand the TvT timings a little bit better than I do. But of course, if he is aware of it, then yeah, he will do this kind of push across the map immediately and try and take advantage of the fact that his opponent doesn't have stim. Because if your opponent doesn't have stim and you do, that is a crazy big advantage. Also, having all these medevacs around to heal up your stim units, even if your opponent gets up stim, there's not a lot of medevacs out for Happy right now. They are going to be busy maneuvering these siege tanks around. Here we go. Clem pushing on forward, sieging up, and the natural expansion. Happy in a little bit of trouble here. Happy's managed to catch up in that worker count, but if he takes any additional losses, he's going to continue to fall bits and pieces further and further behind. Clem is doing that very patient sieging on up forward, getting closer and closer. Tries to move forward up to the high ground, but finds that Happy is just barely in range to attack that siege tank. If he moves a little bit further over to the left, he might be able to find a nice spot, but he's already forcing workers off of mining, forcing the minerals to be spent on repair. Happy is starting to drop in supply. As you can see, is about 30 supply down, and a lot of that is in army supply. But Happy is still looking for an opportunity to try and make this defense work. I think he's trying to drop these siege tanks between siege tank shots for Clem, which is a really cool play. Unfortunately, he's not quite able to make it work. He does force back one of the siege tanks, the more aggressively sieged up siege tanks from Clem. And he's going to try and make this work. He's slowing down the repair on these siege tanks as well, and does push back Clem. Gets 2 siege tanks very low on health. And Happy, despite having to, sacrifice a lot of his mining time and everything, not able to produce workers right now. There's a lot of difficulties that Happy is facing, but he's making the most of it with what he's got. Here we go. Siege tank sieging up very aggressively, and Happy pushes back this army. Clem loses, I believe, 2 of the siege tanks before ends up finally retreating on out, and Happy knocks down the rocks, saying, no, you're not continuing this aggression any further. Of course, these rocks on the the south side do get knocked down as well, so not the worst thing in the world if Clem wants to continue any form of aggression. But I mean, all the upgrades and a lot of the big advantages that Clem had, he's already kind of taken advantage of. He's halted all worker production from Happy for a long time. 3rd command center is going to be so much later than Clem's, which is already finished up in mining. He's sitting at 47 to 36 workers. Of course, both these players getting up their 1-1 upgrades. There's +1 armor going to be on the way for both of them. So they're sitting even in that way. We do have another factory being made over here for Clem. What is he planning to do with that? I guess he's going up to his third base, so he can afford to maybe produce 2 siege tanks at a time. Maybe even start to mix in some widow mines or something, as some players like to do stuff like that, but just like to do a little bit of harassment or something, or maybe even mix in some Hellions and start going to straight on mech. Is yeah, we have a second factory being made as well, or I should say a third factory. So yeah, Clem is maybe looking to bring this into a mech play. We might very well end up seeing some of the like Hellions or something being made. Clem spawning around at that third, gonna knock down the rocks for an opportunity to do some damage later on, and kills off the singular Marine that's scouting out over there. Happy gonna try and move in to defend his future third expansion, make sure he can establish a foothold there. But the rocks have been very, very close to knockdown, and it looks like they will be picked off, and that's going to make it a lot harder for Happy to make the defenses work, especially since Clem is now getting sieged up in a position where he's going to be able to deny that third, but this does leave him vulnerable. Happy, if he moves across the map, there's not a lot back at home for Clem to defend. Happy tries to go after these rocks and do a little bit of damage to them, get them knocked down for a different third expansion potential. A little bit more of an aggressive one, as it is going to be expanding toward his opponent, especially with those south rocks already knocked down. But I feel like this is going to be the best play, just to make sure that your third expansion isn't any further delay than it already is. His third expansion finally coming down almost 2 to 3 minutes later than his opponent's. Clem adding on additional barracks on top of the factories that he's already made. So I guess we just have the factories there for straight up siege tank production. Okay, it looks like there were only 2 factories around. For some reason, I thought I saw... Did he lose his factory early on? I thought I saw 2 factories in the production tab earlier on, but I guess not. Regardless, we got a little bit of drop harassment coming in from Clem. Maybe going to be able to snipe the sensor tower? No, not going to try and focus fire it down. Does end up losing the drop. And Clem going to feel like he has to back up a little bit. Looking for an opportunity to get some damage done. Maybe hoping that he could use this siege tank range to kill off some workers over here in the middle line. No, that's way too far away. You do have some safety over here at this third expansion. Sensor towers going up all around the map right now, though, as the final set of rocks over here for Happy getting knocked down. Clem wants an opportunity to move in without being walking into a little choke point. A lot of siege tanks killing off those rocks very quickly. But we still just have that 20 army supply advantage that Clem has been able to maintain this for quite a bit of time, and even still has a small little worker lead. We're going to see how that 20 or now 30 army supply lead factors into this engagement, as Happy sieged up pretty well defensively. It's going to be a hard army to break through. Clem may even try to just move in with all of his units over to the south side, but he just doesn't have enough medevacs to pick up all the Marines and the siege tanks. And plus the sensor towers over there are going to make it hard to catch your opponent off guard. He's going to have to walk the long way around. And I think that gives Happy more than enough time to realize, yeah, my opponent's moving around. He's suddenly gone. I see the Zelnagel Watchtower. He's not on the north side, but then he's got to be either back at home or he's on the south side. And Clem, I guess, maybe looking for an opportunity and says, well, now it's time to move back up to the north side. It's just that moving back and forth between the two. But Clem, his opportunity for attack is going to be waning pretty soon. Liberator's doing some nice little harassment, killing off a decent chunk of these workers, killing off a lot of the Marines. Ooh, he's really starting to get on top of the workers now. 9 kills so far. And that working count is only starting to dwindle further and further. The Vikings finally starting to get in the mix. He might be able to kill 1 or 2 additional workers. No, not quite able to do so, but still 39 to 50. And what I was talking about is that Clem, his advantage was that he has a big army supply advantage. He wasn't leading up that massively in the worker count any longer, but he does take that the worker lead back once again. Clem looking for an opportunity again to move in. He is sitting up about 40 armies, or 40 supply, 10 of that being in workers. But +2 weapons going to be finishing up over here for Clem, as well as Happy, but Happy's is a little bit further behind, so not quite going to be able to take advantage of that. Happy sitting down 25 army supply, but that is something that you can overcome with some good siege tank positioning. You get the better end, you get your siege tank dropped in a good spot and take whittling away at those marines for Clem a little bit earlier than your opponent. And hey, that 25 army supply can turn around very, very quickly. So Happy is definitely not down on just yet. And of course, Clem is now maxed out, so he is not going to have that massive army supply advantage for very much longer. As Happy gets closer and closer to reaching that same army supply, he's not going to exactly have the same bank that Happy will eventually be building up now that he's maxed out, but well, it can still work out. Happy also doing some nice damage over here. A single siege tank plus a couple of marines able to whittle away at that SCV count, and Clem ends up losing quite a few SCVs down to just 41. Of course, this is at a 4th expansion. It's a planetary fortress, so it's not exactly like he gets an advantage of a 4th orbital command that gives him some nice, massive economic benefit. But still, the main base, the natural expansion, they're pretty much mining out at mining out at this point. So having that extra expansion is nice. And it's Happy, you can see he's pretty much oversaturated over here. Here we go, though. The big engagement. A lot of siege tank shots going down on both sides, but the marine count for Happy is just not there. The marines for Clem charge forward and absolutely obliterate Happy's army. And now suddenly, well, Happy still has 80 army supply around, so it looks like he was able to reproduce that army behind this. But he's also going to be sitting down in those upgrades as 3-3 is on the way. 2-2 is already finished up also for these marines for Clem. Happy gonna be finishing up his own +2 armor upgrade in a couple of seconds, but it was a little bit too late for that engagement. Clem charging forward very aggressively, and eating a lot of siege tank shots over there, and that just might give Happy the opportunity he needs to defend over here and keep this base alive. He's also trying to take this 4th expansion up here over along this left-hand side of the map. Clem, he's been sitting up in supply for almost 10-15 minutes in this game, but he hasn't been able to do enough with it. Even after taking a pretty good engagement and having so many more marines than his opponent, Happy was able to just macro out another army behind it. Happy moving forward though with these siege tanks, trying to put some pressure on Clem despite having the lower army supply. He does have a decent number of siege tanks. So it's still 8-12. Clem still takes the lead in siege tanks. He still takes the lead in marines. Still takes the lead in almost everything except for workers at this point. And of course, Happy also does have that Viking advantage. So with a couple of these Vikings, you can get a bit of that air superiority. Now, we're at the point where both of these players have scans to spare. As you can see, scans constantly going down from both of the players. So they can get vision on each other that way, but it is still nice to not have to use the scans. Of course, to be able to whittle away at those medevacs and prevent the siege tanks from just easily maneuvering around inside the medevacs. That's actually the big thing, is being able to prevent the medevacs from just easily repositioning the siege tanks without any sort of repercussions for moving forward. Well, additional factories being added on for Happy, as I guess he wants to increase that siege tank production as he gets up that 4th expansion. I believe we already have 4 factories around for Clem, so any siege tanks he loses are going to be reproduced much quicker whenever he does have the economy for it. Unfortunately, that is the big limiting factor right now for him. 35 workers and really only 2 mining bases, and this 3rd expansion not really even mining that heavily anymore. He's really relying on this expansion, and the fact that Happy has been able to constantly siege it up, cause all sorts of problems, has really been difficult. But here we go, Clem moving along that north side. Happy, a lot of his army was along the south side. He tries to reposition in time. A lot of his marines going down very, very quickly. Once again, Clem charges forward with 3-3 upgrades, and it seems like it's going to be enough to charge enough far forward. His siege tanks very far back, though, but the marines are going to be more than enough. He is able to take out a majority of the siege tanks over there for Happy. Happy is again still continuing to whittle away at this planetary fortress, but it's a very slow whittling away, as opposed to Clem, who's just obliterating all of the SCVs mining over here at this 3rd expansion. The 4th expansion is a little bit more fresh. It is mining with a planetary fortress going on over there. If Clem moves over there, he can still secure a nice advantage and still spiral this advantage that he's been able to garner for himself. But he's got to make it happen right now. There's not enough of an army for Happy to defend. Happy retreats back home with the few siege tanks and marines that he was pressuring. The planetary fortress goes down. The repair was not there or was not good enough. And Happy has to retreat on out. This is again ace match. Whoever managed to win this game will go on to face off versus Bunny in the qualifying match. Both these players gonna try and hang strong with whatever they've got, but Happy just doesn't have the Marines. Clem charges forward with a stim. Once again, the Sea Shanks also doing some good damage, but majority of the Sea Shanks for Clem have been killed off. It's Sea Shanks versus Marines right now. The Sea Shanks of Happy versus the Marines of Clem. Clem just has slightly better production, I would say. Has a lot more Marines, and only 2 Marines out right now for Happy. GG gets called. Clem is going to be moving on to face off versus Bunny in our qualifying match. All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, here's the deal. We are going to be hopping into our qualifying match, our last match of the day. Again, I want to thank everyone who tuned in for any part of the broadcast today, including this part right now. That would be you, the viewers. We're going to be going to a short little break as I get Tempo in for the final qualifying matches. It looks like he is awake. It's 9 a.m. on the East Coast, and I guess he is looking for some time to kill before he goes to PAX East. So I'll see you guys in a little bit as we get ready to hop into that next series. You guys are watching the BaseTradeTV coverage for things. I also want to say, you know, people, I saw a lot of comments and everything, and I don't know, maybe it's BaseTradeTV, it's like the curse. Rifkin is just like rubbing off on me. I'm addressing comments in the chat and everything. But again, people saying like, you know, oh, you know, well, Fear Dragon use up his game knowledge. Jesus, played the game. Well, I mean, I played Protoss first of all, so yeah, I don't know that much about TvT, but I also don't pretend to know that much. That is the big thing. Like, I'm not going to pretend like I know a lot more about the game than I do. So, again, I have said this earlier on the broadcast, and I said it was going to be the last time I said it, but I'll say it one more time because we have a few more viewers now. If you don't enjoy the broadcast, feel free to mute it. Also, this is going to probably be the only series going on anymore as this last qualifying match, so there are other options for broadcasts. If you want to watch it in another language, Take TV and O Gaming are there. If you want to watch it from Wardy, who is another really fantastic guy, I love Wardy. You can watch that on SC2 Improved. You can watch it on Huey's stream. There's other options. So if you are unhappy with the quality of casting here, nobody's keeping you here. We'll see you guys in a little bit. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my God, ladies and gentlemen, I'm an idiot. All of the hate that I have gotten today is 100% deserved. Also, what's up? What's up, Tempo? How's it going,
what's
man?
Up, guys?
Thanks for joining me for the cast. Do you want to give your shout-outs now that we're done? Because that was
gotta give a shout out to Mama Tempo and the Wind Wheel.
Oh my God, dude! You know what's so frustrating is that at the beginning of that series, I definitely said this was a qualifying match, and I said,
really,
I'm amazed nobody is covered. Like nobody was casting game number 1 of that qualifying series. I should go cast that. I'll wait around. There's like another series and everything going on, but like someone needs to be covering the other qualifying series. And then I just forgot. And for some reason I was like, oh yeah, the winner of this plays versus Bunny. But Bunny's not even in that side of the bracket. He played versus Daishi. What was I talking about? Oh my God. I 100%
a passion, man.
I accept all blame for the stupidity that I just displayed, but Tempo, thank you for joining me.
You got me hyped. I'm like, wow, Fair Dragon casting alone. I'm like,
it was a
gotta help you
day.
out.
It's only been 3 hours. I mean, like,
okay.
You and I both know, like, we finished the best of 69 with PLP versus Jon
Oh
Snow,
my God.
And like 13 hours in, we're like, that was too short. That should have been longer.
I mean, what was it, like 13 hours?
Yeah, it was only 13 hours.
Only, you're right. It could have been at least another 13 hours.
It could have been at least another 13 hours.
Or another 56 hours IMO. I mean, that could have been nice, you know?
Yeah. Doing but I want to thank everyone that tuned in. I want to thank Tempo for being willing to join me.
I had your back.
Dude, I know
I had your back no matter what, though.
And you even, like, you're, like, been going to PAX East and everything, so you had to get up a little bit extra early for this, because I think PAX East PAX usually starts at, like, 10, right? 10 or 11.
Yeah, it's about 45 minutes.
Yeah,
now.
dude, so you're taken away from your PAX time, where I know there's so much fun stuff going on. So I really do appreciate the offer to join me, at least. I actually considered asking you, but I was like, no, he's been going to PAX. Like, there's no way he's gonna be awake right now. He's probably asleep, or like he's probably not gonna want to get up.
Yeah, I did like an ASL thing until like 4:30 in the morning, and
Jesus.
So I was like, yeah,
God.
my body wants to wake me up, and then you were casting, and I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna just ask him. Why not?
What a boss! What a boss! Well, again, I want to thank everyone who tuned in for the broadcast. I want to give a big sorry to anyone, as actually I do see just right now, very conveniently. Let's see. Scantless Noso resubscribed for 13 months. Thank you so much, Scantless Noso. And I want to apologize to anyone who's resubs or anything I missed. I don't actually have Twitch alerts hooked in. That is just something I need a little bit of Rifkin's help for to get set up. When I do have it set up, that's awesome because I've worked with Rifkin to get it set up. But the days that I don't, it's because I haven't talked with Rifkin. He just went straight to bed. He was really tired after a really long broadcast. But of course, yeah. Thanks to everyone who tuned in. And if you guys enjoyed the broadcast, do consider following the channel. My name is Fear Dragon. You guys are following me at FearDragon64. This is Tempo. You can't see his. I don't even have his face pulled up. Let me get his face pulled up.
It's all good,
end
man.
of the broadcast. But if you like Tempo, you can follow him at Tempo_SC.
Team Tempo. Oh.
Team Tempo. And just Tempo StarCraft. Like, just differences everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's the struggle of Fear Dragon, one that you don't have to deal with, but one of these days, I'm gonna message you and be like, "Guess what I did?"
Guess what I did? I'm like, I don't know, man. I won't even believe you when you message me. I'm gonna be like, okay, you probably changed one of them. There's no way you changed all of
one at
them
a time
to be the same. For those who are wondering, I think it's Team. Hold on, let me see if I can get this right. Team Tempo on Twitter.
Yep.
It's youtube.com/TempoSC.
StarCraft,
Tempo
which is
StarCraft,
SC,
Tempo
right?
StarCraft, Tempo StarCraft, and Twitch is Tempo_SC.
Yeah, I need to fix that, man.
Yeah, but
we'll get there though.
If you want to give some love to Tempo, who is willing and hyped up to join me for what we thought was the final series, but I was very wrong about. Give him some love, and of course, Rifkin and ZombieGuard will be covering the WCS North American qualifiers later on today. I'm gonna take a look at Team Liquid to find out exactly what time those are at. I think those are in only 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Damn, they're starting them pretty early today, huh?
Yeah, definitely starting them much earlier. Which actually is kind of rough for the West Coasters, since I think that's like 9 a.m. That's a little bit on the earlier side for West Coasters. Not terrible, but regardless, they are going to be casting that. I am undecided if I'm going to join them or if I'm going to just sleep because I've slept for 2 hours.
Oh God.
So, yeah, I went to sleep at like 11:30, and I woke up around like 2 o'clock to prep for the game.
Oh, and you just been up the whole time?
Yeah, and also it was partially because when I just it got decided I would cast the EU qualifiers and like finish them up today at around I think 9 o'clock p.m. last night. It was like at the end of the broadcast for North America last night. Rifkin and ZombieGuard was just like, I don't think that we can do tomorrow. I was like, yeah, I don't think so. Fear Dragon, do you want to do it? I'm like, I mean, I guess. Sure, let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks so much, guys.
Cool.
That's gonna be it. And have a wonderful day. And be sure to tune in a little bit later on for the BaseTradeTV coverage for the North American qualifiers. I know I will. You know what? Even if I say I'm gonna sleep, at worst, I'll just be laying in bed watching them because I'm so hyped. There's a lot of really awesome matches that are gonna be happening. I think a Panda Bear Me versus Jim Rising still has to happen. That's a qualifying match. And then there's still like a solid 10 or 15 different players that are really, really good players. BioIce, King Kong, Eric, State, Jon Snow, Drunken Boy, Print F.
Damn. Print F, yo, I'm telling you.
That Cannon Rush.
New Galsy.
That Cannon Rush, man. Print F beat Juggernaut Jason, which is
really
insane.
Did he Cannon Rush him too, or did he just?
I don't know, actually. I missed it.
Hey, it's me.
Yeah, like context-wise. Yeah, context. Wait, what the heck? Where'd your camera go?
Oh, I'm looking at me on the stream. Sorry.
I think your camera died on Zoom, but yeah, Juggernaut Jason managed to beat Maxed, another Protoss player. So like that's context for how good Juggernaut Jason can be. But losing to Printf, who's notorious for cannon rushing. Anyways, I'm seriously dragging out these.
Yeah, I'll let you do it.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Since I assume Rifkin is probably still asleep and it's 6:20 in the morning for him, I am going to host somebody. And I'm going to host Gillyweed I know this is a StarCraft stream that's
Whoa.
coming from WCS, but Gillyweed SC2 still has the name SC2 in her Twitch handle. Now does Heroes of the Storm. She's casted like BlizzCon and everything. She's freaking amazing. And you know what? I'm not gonna lie, I don't actually watch that much Heroes of the Storm esports, but love all around for all the other esports, and of course love to someone who was a really, really awesome member of the StarCraft community formerly. Did a lot of the craft stars, if you guys ever knew about that. Did a lot of like interviews with, I think like hosted Copa America one season. It's done all really kinds of awesome stuff, and also a really good friend of BaseTradeTV. So I'm gonna host Gillyweed. Have a wonderful day, guys, and we'll see you guys back in about 2.5 hours.